labor, it's mostly labor, and materials, can pay back in 1 year. In Montana, probably 1 winter. And yet, if you live in your home for 30 years, the rest is just pure money. So it's a false choice to say, would I rather spend $1,000 on more insulation or $1,000 on a granite kitchen top? Well, you can have your insulation and you can have the next 20 years of granite kitchen tops. And so this is what it's about. How do we actually save money? Saving money, running an economy more efficiently means it's a more competitive economy. For that reason, the Recovery Act has made historic investments in Montana's energy efficiency. There are state energy programs, weatherization programs, energy efficiency conservation block grants, and tens of millions of dollars have been invested in your state to help you save money as well as energy. We are trying other experiments because you can't run forever on a Recovery Act. I mean, there has to be some fiscal responsibility, and so how do you actually, if insulation, if energy efficiency saves money, then it should pay for itself. And so we're starting a new program called Better Buildings, and we're going to seed it with $450 million just to get it going. And the idea is to retrofit whole neighborhoods. So within a section of a neighborhood, a town or a block or whatever, if the neighbors say, well, half the neighbors, a third of the neighbors want to do this, then you can have a sort of a mass production, and you can insulate and you can weatherize and you can seal the homes, and you can get we hope a large discount, maybe as much as a factor of 2. There's Home Star programs that would require rebates directly to homeowners to create jobs and save money. And the idea is we're open to all ideas on how to make energy and money savings a social norm. Because again, this is about saving money. More money into your pocket means you go out and spend it in your communities, which means that generates jobs in your communities. All right, what are some of the other things we need to achieve our energy and climate goals? We need to develop and deploy low-carbon technologies. And again, the Recovery Act is doing things. For example, a 30% tax credit for energy manufacturing projects. This is something I feel very strongly about. For some reason, some people, some economists feel that it's okay to cede manufacturing to overseas, and I think that's not okay. We need to keep manufacturing in the United States. We have been, over the last century, a leader in manufacturing, and so we're trying to jumpstart this. There's 30% tax credits for renewable energies when projects placed in service, and these are 2 examples of those energy tax credits in Montana. Montana has tremendous wind potential, and it could drive economic development in the eastern part of the state. And so this is something we should keep in mind. There's a Montana-Alberta tie for power, for electricity, for two-way flows between Canada and Montana. And the Western Area Power Authority, which is under the Department of Energy, is lending $161 million for this project. So what are we also doing? We're looking at the first comprehensive long-term look across the country's 3 interconnection areas. And the agencies, I'm new to Washington. I hope we always remain new to Washington. Anyway, I'm sure I will. But in any case, Washington is full of large agencies and big bureaucracies, and sometimes a lot of things, especially electricity transmission and distribution, have overlapping agencies. 9 agencies signed an MOU to figure out how there could be a point agency, so a state or local municipality wants to do something with federal government, federal land, it goes to only one place. And so we're trying very hard to make us more efficient. Montana has a lot of hydropower. They have a lot of renewables, and wind and solar power, as it becomes a higher fraction of our energy budget, will need some storage, energy storage. The 2 best ways of storing large amounts of energy are surprisingly physical means. If you take electricity and use it to drive pumps to pump water up a hill into this temporary reservoir, and then when you want the electricity, you let it come back down, and as it comes back down, it drives the turbines that are used to pump it up. The total round-trip efficiency, including the evaporation of some of the water up here, means that it's between 70 and 85% efficient. This is actually comparable to the largest utility-scale batteries. So it's very efficient, but the amount of energy stored is enormous. And so what we're doing at the Department of Energy, we are not systematically deciding or figuring out how to use hydroelectric resources with renewables. And this would be a good thing. And so we want to develop the idea of using pump storage or compressed air storage for utility scale storage. Europe is looking at this very, very hard and have plans for this. And again, we should do the same. We also have a lot of coal in the United States. The United States has 1/4 of all the coal reserves in the world. And in fact, if you look at the countries that have coal, US, China, Russia, Australia, and India have 3/4 of all the known coal reserves. So coal is a plentiful source, it's inexpensive, but we have to learn to use it cleanly. And by cleanly, I mean not only the traditional pollutants, the sulfur dioxide, the nitrogen oxides, the mercury particulate matter, but also the carbon dioxide. And it is unlikely that the United States, China, Russia, and India will turn their back, or Australia will turn their back on coal. And so it's incumbent upon developed countries especially to take the lead and develop technologies that can use this in a clean way, capturing 90% or more of the carbon dioxide, as well as the more traditional pollutants. And we're working very hard to develop a demonstration program and also a research program that can lead to commercial deployment in 8 to 10 years. The Recovery Act is funding 3 commercial-scale gasification plants with carbon capture, 3 industrial-scale carbon capture and sequestration applications, and 1 commercial-scale oxy-combustion where you retrofit an old coal plant with a modern new boiler that burns in an oxygen atmosphere. When you do this, you produce a pure stream of carbon dioxide that can be sequestered. And this is a new way of retrofitting the older plants, which we think, again, could make coal very clean. We also have to discover the breakthroughs we need for tomorrow. We don't have them all. But if you look at what type of scientific research organizations generated the most astounding scientific and technology breakthroughs, the first thing that comes to my mind is a place that I worked at for many years, for 9 years, AT&T Bell Laboratories, and another place that in my later years I became interested in biology in the last 15 years, and the Laboratory for Molecular Biology of the British Medical Research Council. This is the laboratory where Watson and Crick discovered the structure of DNA and where molecular biology and X-ray diffraction started. These 2 laboratories remained the pinnacle in their respective fields for decades, and they produced many Nobel Prizes. For example, at Bell Labs, 17 Bell Labs scientists were awarded Nobel Prizes. I worked at Bell for 9 years, and the beginning of my work for the led to Nobel Prize was started here. I used to live in the original farmhouse of the area built in 1850, right here, where my pointer is. I'd hop the fence and walk to work. It was ideal. I couldn't be closer to work, except if I put a cot in the building. Wife wasn't enthusiastic about a cot, so we had a house. A lot of things came out of Bell Laboratories, a lot of inventions. The transistor was invented at Bell Laboratories. The first silicon solar cell was invented at Bell Laboratories. The laser was invented at Bell Laboratories. The CCD detector, cell phone technology, information theory, satellite communication. The list is endless. It is incredible what came out of Bell Laboratories. And those inventions, and also very basic science inventions, like the remnants of the creation of the universe was discovered at Bell Laboratories. These things came out of a real science and technology hothouse that, and I asked myself, can we erect something like this to solve our energy problems? There's another type of laboratory where scientists came for the sake of national need, And this is during World War II, during the Manhattan Project, Los Alamos, and also the University of Chicago's Metallurgical Laboratory. Great scientists and engineers worked side by side. This is Enrico Fermi, Robert Feynman, Robert Oppenheimer, sitting in a seminar. This is Glenn Seaborg, all Nobel laureates working on the Manhattan Project. The laboratory, MIT's radiation laboratory, a number of 2B Nobel laureates working here developing the nation's radar. They were trying to develop on a time scale significantly faster than would have occurred naturally because of the emergency. And so we have a similar situation, and so we are constructing laboratories that will develop technologies much faster. The good news is the scientists and engineers today, especially the younger ones, are highly motivated to say, what can I do to help? And what can I do to contribute to our national prosperity? And what can I do to help in the climate problem? And so that's very good news. We're also looking at new funding mechanisms. This is called ARPAE. It's modeled after DARPA. So ARPA stands for Advanced Research Projects Agency for Energy. And it's a novel way of funding. It's funding kind of crazier ideas that have a reasonable chance of failing miserably. Usually, if you're a funding agency, you want to fund things that you're sure are going to work, but the trouble is funding things that you're sure are going to work are going to be incremental improvements. And so rather than fund for incremental improvements, we say, let's fund people who are willing to swing from the heels, so to speak. Well, when you swing from the heels and are trying for home runs, you're going to strike out. And so you anticipate it's okay to strike out occasionally, but it'd be great if you hit a home run, and if you hit a grand slam home run, that will be literally game-changing. And so we're looking for those game-changing innovations. Here's one example. It could fail, but maybe not. You suppose you're a power plant, a cement plant, a coal plant. Lots of carbon dioxide comes out of the smokestack. You have to get that carbon dioxide and absorb it on some material. And then in order to desorb it so you can collect the carbon dioxide and pump it underground somewhere, you have to expend a lot of energy. And that energy actually decreases the efficiency of the power plant. But there is a system that grabs carbon dioxide, transports it, and releases it where there's no extra energy, and that's called your human body. When you metabolize energy in your cells, you are converting sugars and oxygen into the waste products, which include carbon dioxide, and the carbon dioxide has to be transported out of your body. There is a magic enzyme in your blood that enables your blood to capture the carbon dioxide, transport it to your lungs, and you simply exhale it. And it increases that reaction 10,000-fold without any additional cost in energy. And so the question is, can we use biology as an inspiration to then invent a miracle molecule that can capture carbon dioxide out of a smokestack, very different environment than your human body, and function and expel it? And the answer is maybe we can. We can actually, and we're doing this. We're funding a couple of groups to actually modify these biological molecules so they can survive in a flue gas smokestack type environment and work at higher temperatures. And this work is ongoing, and it's beginning to show signs of progress. Another thing is wind turbines. Sometimes, in order to get higher and higher efficiencies, the wind turbines have to get bigger and bigger, but there are certain applications where you don't want a wind turbine that towers 300 feet up, and you would want something a little smaller, more compact. And it turns out that the same technologies that are used in jet engines to grab the air to burn in a jet engine can be used to grab more air and grab more of the wind energy. And these technologies are now being tried out. And then finally, an all-liquid metal battery. It's inspired by aluminum refineries. And if this works, it could provide grid-scale energy